It is a historical fact. Listen to this. It's a historical fact that every non-Māori person, every democratic or civil institution in this land is only here because the sovereign tribes of Aotearoa and the British Empire reached agreement on the terms of their existence here in 1840. And what were those terms? Act would have us believe those rangatira in 1840 surrendered their authority to Hobson and his queen. In exchange, they were permitted to keep their lands and treasures, were granted the rights of British citizenship, and that total surrender of chiefly tribal mana and power was obtained over 100,000 fiercely independent, warlike people by few officials, some missionaries, without military support or compensation. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds like a damn good trick to me. The actual terms were that the rangatira granted the British the right to apply British law and governance. That's actually literally what kāwanatanga means. Not sovereignty, governance. Kāwana is a transliteration of governor. Kāwanatanga denotes the role of governance, not sovereignty. Governance over who? The 2,000 odd British citizens that were in this land and those that would follow. In return, the existing rights of total chiefly authority, literally what tino rangatiratanga means, over tribes and resources were guaranteed, as well as protection and rights of citizenship. That's it. Now, you don't have to be a genius to know which one of those scenarios makes more sense or is true.
There you go. So there's a bit of the opening statement. Matt, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, look, I mean, and it comes back to something that was referenced later on, which is the lands case that they talked about, that David Seymour also referenced and said, Dame Jacinda talked about. It's also another fabrication, if you like, in what David Seymour says, that, well, the courts and others have never defined the principles, and that's because the courts give direction, right? So let me just read this out to you. In their judgments in this case, the court recognised a number of principles of the Treaty of Waitangi, including kāwanatanga and tino rangatiratanga. In other words, the right of the Crown to govern and the right of Māori to continue to exercise self-determination. Point 2, on an ongoing partnership with obligations to act reasonably and in good faith, hence the treaty settlements process. And in the case of the state-owned enterprises case, it was very much about, assets that would have been contentious not being transferred over to state-owned enterprises that could ultimately be sold. Like land or water or whatever the case might be. The third is duty to remedy past breaches, again reference to settlements, and let's move on to this. And the other one was active protection. Now, the court also noted that the use of the phrase treaty principles rather than the terms of the treaty calls for an assessment of the relationship the parties hoped to create by and reflect in that document, and an inquiry into the benefits and obligations involved in applying its language in today's changed conditions. And then what you've seen since the late 80s, early 90s is successive governments, including governments with people such as Winston Peters, Jim Bolger, Doug Graham, all of these different people to actively pursue remedy. And that's what's happened in the Ngāi Tahu settlements in Tainui and so on and so on. And so it's actually a fabrication of the narrative that David is peddling, that the courts haven't attempted to get everybody to discuss this. And that's a prudent approach to take. So the courts have held out and made decisions. It's whether or not the responsible minority that David now wants to interpret everything, to interpret those decisions adequately, because apparently everyone's wrong.
Yeah, that's been proven time and time again. Even when there was debates before the election, they were saying to David, Willie Jackson was very good at it. How come this person was right and this person was right? Now you're saying all of those academics and lawyers and historians are wrong, and you're the only right one, David Seymour. So that's been but it seems just to go over everyone's head because we continue on.
And so Helmut's right when he talks about the difference in interpretation of kāwanatanga as an example. And then what David and his ilk conveniently do, and again, I mentioned this before, is they provide a line or a statement convenient to their narrative without providing the full context. And then they, when all of a sudden you're looking directly at them, they say, oh, by the way, now look over there. It was the public servants and the academics and the parliamentarians and all these other lawyers and jurists. They're the ones that created this problem. Well, no. And then you step forward into today. And I think this is the other point Helmut was attempting to make. And I think Helmut really made some good points, which was simply this, no, this is not about those who recently arrived yesterday or or today or tomorrow. This is about settling the claims of what happened yesteryear. Yes, I get that. But then also, and I mentioned the contradiction, sorry, I might be ranting again, but the contradiction once again that everybody in this country is somehow born equal. Well, if that's the case and everyone's going to live in a warm and healthy home, well, why did you cut all the money from building state houses then, David, in your current government? Or why did you get rid of Te Akapai Order? Because apparently we're less equal in your eyes than everybody else, because we've got apparently all this stuff, which is much more so than everybody else. But that's also because we didn't start with equality in our lives from the get-go. So I'm flabbergasted that we're even having a debate like this on an issue as important. Now, if you want to have a conversation about the future constitutional arrangements of Aotearoa, with a recognition that we do not have a constitution in this country, instead we have a series of laws born over many years, then let's have that conversation. But not throw out the Treaty of Waitangi just for convenience of a conversation you'd rather have. Rant over.
David Seymour kept talking about equal rights and equality, and I just, as always, I'm just reminded of the brilliant imagery. Yeah, there you go. There's equality, and that's what David wants. He wants equality, whereas I think most of us either want equity or liberation. He wants equality. That the smallest, perhaps the most vulnerable, will still not get what they need.